arrive. We're going to begin the subcommittee. And the first bill that will be heard is House Bill 2432, Hausman and Keithley. Representative Keithley, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and members of the committee. I appreciate the opportunity today to present House Bill numbers 2432, 2482, 2543, sponsored by Representative Hausman, myself, and Representative Voss. House Bill 2432, and what we've passed out of the House, it's really it's a very similar bill in almost every way to Senate Bill 756, sponsored by Senator Luetkemeyer. And so I think it's best to probably, and to be respectful of the committee's time, to try to focus on the differences here. Senate Bill 756 is the senior property tax freeze HB190 changes to try to clarify a lot of the language and put some better processes in place so the counties can be better off trying to implement this going forward and have a little more clarity on how this is supposed to be designed to work. So like I said, in most regards, it works pretty much the exact same way. A lot of the language is identical across the board to what the Senate has already passed off the floor in Senate Bill 756. But I do want to draw your attention to some of those differences. The first one in the House bill, you'll see missing from Senate Bill 756, the House bill had, in the House bill, we passed the provision, on line 14, you'll see on 2432, under line 14, that an eligible taxpayer does not owe any delinquent taxes, interest, or penalties to the county. This was included in the House version, did not make it into 756's final version that was sent over to the House. You'll hear more testimony, I believe, after me from the counties. That's been a specific request from them in order to ensure that people who are delinquent on the taxes, that those amounts can still be collected, or they're not benefiting from having not paid taxes for years. That, in addition to that language, the next big change I would bring your attention to is at the start of the bill, you'll see language that's being added into the language from HB190 from last year, where it reads on lines 3 and 4, under the definition of eligible credit amount, that it applies to all taxing entities levying a property tax. That portion was taken out of Senate Bill 756 and replaced with language at the end in subsection 5 that a county granting a tax credit pursuant to this section shall notify each political subdivision within such county of the total credit amount applicable to such political subdivision by no later than November 30th of each year. To me, I think this is one of the more substantive changes we need to discuss. I think both areas are designed to try to accomplish the same thing. But I think I would say the House version, I believe, is cleaner in how it goes about it. The idea of these provisions is to make it clear that the tax credit, as contemplated by the legislature, was going to be applied to all the tax entities, not just the county portion of the tax. If you're only giving the county portion of the tax, you're not really given much of a substantive tax credit in some cases when you're leaving out the other taxing jurisdictions that can make up the majority or the bulk of the property taxes that a senior is going to be paying on it. The other issue that clarifies is ensuring that other taxing jurisdictions don't come back to the county, who's now not able to collect this money because they're returning as a credit, and claims that they still have the right to take it from the county, in which case you have the county financing a credit for tax revenue they were never due to receive because they were just shipping it off to the next taxing jurisdiction. The House language, I believe, is clear on this regard, in that it just applies to the taxing entities. And so I think it's I would encourage this committee look at the House version on that language versus what came out of Senate Bill 756. There are a few other smaller differences that I think were more clarifying than anything in the House version in subsections 5 and subsection 6 at the very end of the bill. Nothing in this section shall be construed as to prevent an eligible taxpayer from appealing an assessment. I don't know that there's been any thought out there that a senior citizen under HB190 from last year would have an issue with appealing an assessment, but we wanted to make sure that that was clear, that they still had a right to do that. As the assessment process is still ticking along for their property, they're just getting a credit to offset those increases in the assessment. And then number 6 just specifically exempts the blind pension fund, which I don't believe we can touch with SB 190 because it's a fund placed in through the Constitution. So I don't know that it matters whether it's in there or not, but from the House side, we thought it was important to clarify that we didn't intend to touch any funds that were necessitated through the Constitution because we couldn't do that. Happy to answer any questions on those or other provisions of the bill, but those are the bigger differences between the two provisions, or the two bills themselves.
Thank you. Any questions for the representative? Seeing none, first up that would like to testify in favor, please come forward.
Thank you. My name is Dennis Ganal. I'm the founder and managing director for Mo Tax Relief Now. I feel like we've gone full circle. Last year, Senator Brown and Representative Keithley and I sat down to figure out how to get seniors property tax relief, and here we are. I've worked with almost 40 counties in the state, and the one thing that we have found was we identified about 11 different areas that were created ambiguity or vagueness. We discussed these with the Missouri Association of Counties, who are very much in agreement with us as to these areas are ambiguous and can cause problems. We're supporting this bill over 756 for the primary reason that it very clearly states that it's all taxing jurisdictions and that there's no ambiguity. So if the goal, this is like the most popular bill, I think, in the state. There was a vote that was just passed in Boone County last month, or this month. 2-1, people voted for it. So our goal is to get a bill out here that can actually be implemented. We've got 14 counties that have. We've got 50 that are probably sitting on the edge now waiting for a good, clear language. We think that this bill does the best job on that.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions for the witness? Thank you very much. Please be sure to leave a witness form. Next up, that would like to testify in favor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Michael Gibbons, representing St. Charles County. And just to go on record in support, St. Charles County adopted the senior tax property tax credit ordinance last December. In the course of adopting that, we were concerned about a number of items as far as the ability to survive a legal challenge. So we believe that we believe the Senate bill addresses those. We believe this does as well, and we're very much in support. Happy to answer your questions.
Thank you. Any questions for the witness? Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Next up in favor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Senators of the committee. For the record, my name is Steve Hobbs with the Missouri Association of Counties, here to testify in favor of House Bill 2432 et al. As many of you know, we formed a task force a year ago to look at some of the problems that we saw with Senate Bill 190, and we really appreciate the efforts of the Senate and the House to look at some of the clarification that we put out that our counties felt like they needed before they moved forward. There are about 14, 15 counties that are in some process of implementing this right now, and I think the bill handler, one of the bill sponsors that was here today, did a really good job at talking about the differences in the two bills. There is one other thing that was added on to Senate Bill 756 in the House that I would like for you all to consider. After talking to our counties that are in some place in implementing this, one of the things they asked for was an emergency clause. Because of timing, if the bill was to be passed and signed into law and goes into effect at the end of August, tax bills will be going to the printer at the end of October. That is a very short window for people to apply, and both of these bills are greatly expanding the number of people that are eligible for this tax credit as compared to the original Senate Bill 190, with teachers, railroad employees, certain federal employees being eligible for this as well. And those counties are asking for more time Their fear is that there's just not going to be enough time for the applications to be processed, and there's going to be some constituents out there that are going to be very frustrated with that. So I would like for you all to consider that as we move forward with the bill. I think the House did a really good job and had a little more time to implement the reports of our task force. Actually, the task force report wasn't finalized at our annual meeting until after Senator Luetkemeyer had already filed 756. But I want to thank them for working with us and some of the larger counties that have tried or taking stabs at implementing this. I'll end my testimony there and be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions for the witness? Thank you very much. Next up in favor.
Good morning, Angie Schulte here on behalf of the Missouri County Collectors Association. Just thank the representatives and Senator Luetkemeyer for the clarification and basically what everybody else said. We just really support this bill.
Thank you. Any questions for the witness? Thank you very much. Next up, they would like to speak in favor.
Good morning, Chairman and member of the committee. My name is Bev Allen, and I'm the chairman of the Warren County Republican Committee and drafted leader of the Warren County Senior Tax Freeze Committee. We're in full support of this to get it on the road. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for the witness? Next up in favor. Anyone that would like to speak in opposition? Anyone for informational purposes only? Representative, do you have any closing remarks?
If there are any other questions on it, I'm happy to answer that, but otherwise I think the witnesses did a good job of commenting on some of those differences for the committee's consideration.
Thank you very much. This concludes the hearing for House Bill 2432. Next up, we will have Senate Bill 1365. Senator Fitzwater, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's just you and me. It's going to be great. It's a good thing this is really complex. It actually makes me less nervous. This is a complex bill that has to do with the federal tax cuts that happened in 2017 that coupled us with our tax code with the federal government and ensured that any research wages that were expended for experimentation and research had to be capitalized, which basically means they don't get the benefit of writing those off on a yearly basis. Therefore, one of my constituents who does millions of dollars in investment in research and experimentation on a yearly basis in a tech field has seen his tax bill go through the roof in the state as a result. So basically what we're trying to do is decouple this so that they can write off the expenses for experimentation and research that is appropriate for writing off, not just to get a deal, but it seems like the right thing to do to decouple so that their state tax bill isn't through the roof on a yearly basis, which it has been significantly changed over the last couple of years as a result of that. By I think it's like a fourfold difference in their tax bill. So that is kind of the heart of it, is decoupling.
We have established a quorum. Since we do have a quorum, I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session. Do I have a second? Yep. We are in executive session. I move that HB1912 be brought before the committee. Do I have a second? This is Representative McGirl's bill that we heard last week. HB1912 modifies provisions relating to the taxation of pass-through entities, also known as the SALT Parity Act. I move that the committee vote do pass HB1912. Do I have a second? Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Secretary, please call the roll.
Senators Brown,
Aye.
Esslinger, Beck, Eigel, Fitzwater, Huff, Roberts.
Present.
With your vote of 3-0, the motion passes. You voted to pass House Bill 1912.
Now make a motion to move out of executive session. Do I have a second? With no further business coming before the committee, I make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? We are adjourned. Thanks, Lincoln. Save the day.
Yeah, I don't remember him offering it last. Oh, I wasn't here. Did he say something last week during committee?
About what?